It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Brian. We were talking in show prep about how there's only been one bear market in the past, 50 years that lasted over 2 years or so. And it was back at the dot-com bubble burst. And you're like, man, I was doing this back then. I was managing money back then. I'm curious to know, from your perspective, do you think the financial world is louder or less loud now than it was then? Meaning, has it gotten more difficult to ignore the noise than perhaps it was 20 or 30 years ago?
I definitely think that, because look, the internet existed, hence dot-com bubble bursting, but social media was not on the scene yet. And
Sure.
I do feel like social media has added a lot more noise and voices in the background, and you just don't get away from it. This is a little off topic, but we always talk about like bullying. When I was a kid, you only had to worry about a bully picking on you, maybe in your woodworking class,
right,
while you were in school. Whereas now you have to worry about, are you going to get people picking on you even when you leave the school? Well, it's the same way with the way you guys, what you let in your brain with sources of information while you're going through a market downturn like this, is that it used to be, hey, as long as I made it through this week or whatever. Now, think about like cryptocurrencies and things like those markets don't even close. It used to be that markets were open Monday through Friday. Now markets are open 24 hours a day. It's so wild that we have inundated ourselves with social media. We're trying to create ways that we can always be on. This does not make your job easier. So we wanted to talk about what you need to understand, key understandings that will protect you from the noise that could make you react and actually hurt your long-term financial success.
But maybe you're someone out there saying, hey, Brian, I get that. I'm not going to listen to social media. I'm going to trust the experts. I'm only going to listen to like reputable sources telling me what's going on. And so the question that you ask is, can the media, can the financial world, can the powers that be accurately predict recessions or accurately predict bear markets? So we want to play a little game, right? That's what the team has set up. The team want to play this. We're going to show you a real media headline. And in the comments right now, if you're with us live, we want you to guess what the return of the S&P 500 was over the next 3 years. So I'm going to pull up a headline. I'm not going to tell you when it came from. I'm just going to show you the headline. And I want you to tell me, what did the market do over the next 36 months?
Okay, let's jump in this. This will be great.
Here's the first one. This is from the Financial Times. And this says the risk of a double dip recession is rising. So it sounds like things must have been going pretty bad. There was a single dip, and now it looks like another dip might be coming. So what did the market do?
I feel like financial journalists have a whole word bank. They have like a bag and they just reach in and you see things like double dip, recession, risk. They kind of just put together the headlines off of what they pulled out of the bag. Well, we know, because I could say double dip recession. We hear about this every time we come through any type of volatility in the market. Go ahead and give me the big reveal.
So this was actually from August 23rd of 2009. So this is immediately after the Great Recession. We saw a recovery starting in March of that year. Over the next 3 years, from August of 2009 through August of 2012, the S&P 500 made 37.6%.
So first of all, let's go back in the Wayback Machine of 2009 when this article was written with the risk of double dip recession is rising. Even though we've made it through the 2008, the Great Recession, emotions are probably pretty raw because, everybody went through a lot of volatility through there. So to see that headline, you're like, oh, man, this is going to be scary. And I even want to take it a step further. If you look at the actual visual, and for those that are listening, I'm going to give you the clarity on this. It does look like, if I looked at the visual, you're like, hey, I could actually draw a W out of the volatility of what was going on in the market there. But this is why, guys, I say this all the time, so hear me on this. When you're investing, this is not a straight line endeavor where you're just walking up a slight incline and making those perfect little 8 to 10% rates of returns. What you're actually doing is walking up a mountain with a yo-yo where, yes, it is in the short term going up and down, but you're going to a higher place over the long term. And this is the perfect illustration. Even though you can outline a W, you still are in a much higher place, a 37.6% better place from August 23rd of 2009 when this was written.
All right, so let's do another one. Here's the next headline. This is from the Mercury News. This says, economist who predicted busted housing bubble says another recession is coming. So this is an expert who's already gotten it right once. I mean, this guy called it. He said that the housing bubble is going to burst. And now this person is saying another recession is coming. So if that's the case, surely he knows what's going on. What happened in the markets over the next 3 years?
I always think it's interesting. I saw this, somebody on social media, I think it was Twitter, said the only way the perma bears make money, you show me a perma bear that is loaded, and I'll show you somebody that sells a great subscription model to their systems. And then when I see this, because they do, the media loves to roll out their perma bear expert that got the last downturn called, and they say, this is why you need to be paying attention. So economists predicted busted housing market, says recession is coming. How could this go wrong?
So here is when this was. This was July 22nd of 2014. So if you rewind July of 2014 through July of 2017, S&P 500 made 24.7% in that 3-year period. So it sounds like maybe this economist who predicted the housing bubble didn't nail it. He did not hit it just right.
I always think it's interesting. We didn't create a slide. We've used this with clients a lot. You guys, everybody, please understand, we always look at the values at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, and that's how we determine did the market make money or lose money. But I think the typical investor would be shocked to find out that intra-year, from the beginning of the year to some point before we reach year end, there could be a 13.5% pullback. That is typically the average intra-year adjustment. So when you look at the visual, once again, it's going to be all over the place. It's not that slight slope where you're just counting on you making your money. No, that's CD investing. This is completely different. You have to have the volatility to get that outsized long-term performance. Embrace it and understand what you're getting into.
All right, so those two we've done, Brian. Let's do another one. This is actually from the Wall Street Journal, right? So this is a big boy.
Oh, it has to be right.
This has got to be right. So it says, why soaring assets and low unemployment mean it's time to start worrying. It's time to start worrying because there's some indicators, and we've been here before. We know what's going on. What happened over the next 3 years? Well, if you look at the timing here, this headline was from July of 2017. By the way, where our last 3-year period ended. So if you think about like compounding growth, we should be painting a pretty clear picture for you. Over the next 3 years, from July of 2017 through July of 2020, and it seems to me like there was a thing in 2020, I can't remember, It looks like, I feel like something happened that market year. Even with that, over the next 3 years, the market S&P 500 made 32%. So in all three of these scenarios, Brian, they missed it. These media headlines telling you, worry, be careful, tread cautiously, danger's coming. None of them actually came to fruition. While there may have been small bouts of that, if you could stay disciplined and consistent, you were rewarded as an investor over the last decade.
Well, I think if I was giving somebody who's new to investing a key piece of advice, people always say, how do you know the market's going to go up? And I always say, and be careful because the experts will roll out like this one. This headline from the Wall Street Journal from 2017 said, soaring assets. That's a positive, typically. Low unemployment, that's another positive. But now they're telling you, hey, because of all this positive stuff, you should be scared. They will always pull out little tidbits of information and use that to give them the expert status. But what they never talk about is what's actually happening in the long term is if you could look at the economy, say 20 years ago to where the economy is now, it's just bigger. It's natural because I think it's part of being the human condition is we are always looking to expand, grow, build, innovate. And when you invest, and we're always talking about index investing and other things, you're basically buying into that concept that we're building a great, big, beautiful tomorrow where the world is innovating and getting bigger and better. So it's much easier to understand that you're buying into something for the long term than getting caught up in the minutia, the noise, as we talked about in the drink system. This is the stuff to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. If you think about how financial media works, right? It's not often because they're telling a pleasant story. It's not often because they're saying, hey, things are great. You should be excited. Things are going to be okay. It's often because they want to get you scared. They want to sell fear because fear will keep you tuned in. So you can't let fear become the primary driver behind your financial decisions. If you begin to do that, you begin to make mistakes and you begin to deviate from the plan that should have been good before the craziness happened, that should still be good while the craziness is going on, and will be good after the craziness has passed.
Bo, you talk about it. I love this when we're dealing with clients. Understand and separate what you can control and what you don't control, and what's actionable, what's not actionable. Walk us through what you use when you're talking to a client about that.
Yeah, so there's tons of information coming at us, right? Oh, this asset is at an all-time low, or this asset is at an all-time high, or this thing is worrisome, or this thing is scary, or geopolitical crisis, or Russia or Ukraine, all these things. There are certain pieces of information that are information, and they may even be accurate, but they're not actionable. There's nothing that you can or should do with that information. There are other types of information that can be actionable. This is like a really easy example we'll talk about in a moment, like strategies like loss harvesting. Hey, if it's factual that the markets are down, I have losses in my portfolio, there might be a tax benefit that I can glean from that. That is an actionable piece of information. Hey, I'm going into retirement. Perhaps I need more emergency reserves. I don't need 6 months anymore. I need 18 months. That is actionable information. Oh man, the next double dip recession could be coming, or asset prices are getting frothy. That's information. I don't know that I would argue that is actionable information. So you need to learn, how do I discern the difference and only act on the information that I should be acting on?
Yeah, and know what you control and what you don't control. And if you don't control it, be aware of it, but don't let it consume you. I mean, that's the big thing, because I do think the profit motive of the financial press, or really any press, is not aligned to your personal success. Right. And that's I think that's really helped us in a lot of ways, is because the financial press does not care about your financial success personally. They want, and Bo already gave this away, they want your eyes, they want your ears, they want your brains, they want you tuned in to whatever they're sharing. And that's why you always hear the adage, if it bleeds, it leads, is because we as humans, we have this strong emotional reaction to fear, and that's what they use as a tool. So don't let the noise hurt you. So following up with the drink system that Bo came up with, take a drink, ignore the noise.